Hi, everyone. Hopefully, you're all having a fantastic Saturday. We are, of course, looking ahead to the potential for strong winds tomorrow and even some heavy rain. But I do want to start off at least talking about a relatively nice Saturday across the area. Good morning, Daniel, and good morning, Joy. Hopefully, you all have had a fantastic Saturday so far. Here's a live picture here from Valentine where we do have sunshine mixed in with some clouds. If you were out early this morning, we did have a mostly sunny start, but right now it's kind of a mix of sunshine and clouds. Temperature right now at 48. We'll eventually be reaching the 50s by the afternoon. So we're warming relatively quickly compared to where we normally are for this time of year. The high temperature forecast today is right around 58. We're normally at 55, so just a few degrees higher than that. We essentially have a combination of a low pressure system that's off to the west and a lot of moisture near the Gulf of Mexico that will be moving across the state of Florida today and producing severe weather there that is going to form eventually into a nor'easter low pressure system and ride right up the East Coast as we head throughout the afternoon. I mentioned this in the newscast earlier, but if you ever watch our Weather IQ series that we do or the Weather IQ YouTube channel where we have all the stories that Chris and I especially, and I know KJ does some too. I did one on nor'easters a few weeks ago because we were talking about the superstorm of 1993. But nor'easters are named for the northeasterly wind around the low pressure system, not necessarily for the northeastern United States. So something to remember too, because we say nor'easter and then people think, wait, we're not in New England, but no, it's because of that wind direction. So all that moisture is going to be riding up the East Coast, the low pressure system too. And as it does so, it will provide enough rain, enough wind to see not only rain and wind here in the Carolinas, but also isolated power outages. I really truly feel like this will be more of not a shock to the system necessarily, but something we haven't seen in quite some time. And last Sunday, we had the severe weather risk, but it was a little bit different because that was more driven by a cold front, whereas this is coming in from the south and west across Florida and kind of riding up the coast. So it's just a little bit of a different situation there. It's more of a consistent rainfall event with the wind kind of tailing that rain. So the rain's going to start in the morning, last pretty much off and on through the entirety of the day, but the winds are going to really start to pick up by the afternoon hours. So it'll rain all day, but the winds will be most gusty and most intense by the afternoon hours. And that won't just be the case for us here in Charlotte. That'll also be the case for the immediate coastline as well, and then eventually a big burst of snow possible by late Monday and into Tuesday. So let's take a closer look here. Here's 11 o'clock tonight. I do think we'll see enough cloud cover tonight to really see that small potential for a stray shower, if not patchy drizzle. We started off mostly sunny this morning, but then the high clouds have really been streaming in. So officially on our map, if you look at the National Weather Service data for Charlotte Douglas International, we are mostly cloudy because we have more than about 60% cloud cover, but a lot of those are those high clouds, those thin ones. So the sun is still shining. So that's an important distinction, and it's why we look at the cloud layers. So not just low clouds, but mid-level and high clouds too. So I think we'll have more of those low overcast clouds by the afternoon, and then eventually overnight we'll see a few showers possible by tonight and into tomorrow morning. But really, I think we're ramping up the consistent rain by about 5, 6 a.m. So if you're waking up for early church service, let's say you're getting there by 7, consistent rainfall across the region. There is one small distinction that I think has shifted in the last 24 hours that will create a small change for areas up in the mountains. A small easterly shift will allow for some drying periods for portions of the mountains and the northern foothills, and maybe a sliver of the northwestern Piedmont. But this will not include the majority of the Charlotte metro. You'll notice this as we get closer to about the 6 p.m. time frame. So here we are right around lunch. You can see overspread the entire area, not just moderate, but heavy rainfall too. You see shaded in the orange and red coloring. But by the afternoon hours, that's it. There you go. See how a few of those just light little showers start to kind of break up. But notice the metro and areas east of 77, still heavy rain. So I want folks to be prepared for the mountains may get a break, but we still are going to see that for most of the Charlotte metro for virtually the entirety of the day. So even though the rain doesn't start until about 5 a.m., most of our daytime hours where folks are out and about, or maybe they won't be out and about because of the rain, we'll see that consistent rain. And then really most of Monday actually looks pretty dry. But what happens is the winds temporarily die down, and then we get a big burst of northwesterly flow by Monday afternoon. And that combined with the moisture is actually going to allow for a big burst of snow. And so it'll likely be that Monday afternoon time frame. There you go, that we see some of that snow in the mountains and maybe even the chance for a wintry mix for portions of the foothills. So be mindful of that too, folks. If you're in Caldwell County, Burke County, Ash, Watauga, Avery, but that's going to be not necessarily an overnight event Sunday night into Monday, but more actually of a Monday afternoon and into the evening hours, which is a little bit different than what we're typically accustomed to with these storm systems that move in. So as we look at the impacts here, heavy rain, again, pretty much from start to finish, but the heaviest by that middle time of the day. The winds really ramping up after lunchtime, but the best chance to see those winds lead to scattered power outages will likely be after about 3 and 4 p.m. And the reason why is because that's when winds are highest, but that's also when the ground is going to be the most saturated from some of that heavy rain. And this will allow for, of course, winds can, you know, knock down power outages, cause issues there, but also they can topple over trees, not necessarily large trees only, small ones too, but just be mindful of that, especially if your ground gets really, really saturated really, really easily. The gust potential around 35 to 40 miles per hour at a maximum. They have gone down a tiny bit with our latest guidance numbers because of that same easterly shift that allowed for some lesser rainfall up in the mountains. So it is something of note. But for now, I'm sticking with about 40 still for the Charlotte area, since most of the region, most of the Piedmont will still see those gusts close to 40. Of course, the wind gusts will be a little bit lower up toward the mountains and areas west of 77, much higher near the immediate coast, where not only will they see gusts near 60 miles per hour, but also that beach erosion potential and just really, really bad conditions, beach erosion, coastal flooding, and all of that mess heading into Sunday and Monday. So it really is going to be a mess if you live along the immediate coastline. Not only that, but they're also going to see the chance for some severe weather too. So thankfully, we don't have that risk here in the Charlotte area. Sorry, folks, I'm trying to get this to progress. And the highest wind gust there, again, like I mentioned, will be up to about 60 miles per hour. But that'll be especially on the places like Hatteras, the Outer Banks that really start to jut out. And you'll actually be able to see that as we progress future casts and kind of see when those are going to peak. So mostly after 3, 4 p.m. But again, these are going to be peaking. I mean, look at that 59 near Hatteras, Charleston, Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, all seeing those upper 20s, lower 30s, and even close to 40 miles an hour. So the wind is certainly not a joke, and it is going to be, like I said, lowering a little bit by Monday morning, and then we'll get another quick burst on Monday, but that'll be up in the mountains. So the power outage risk is moderate tomorrow for most of the Charlotte area because our winds, again, sustain 15 to 20, gusts up to 40, but they will be higher along the immediate coast. And our rainfall totals between 1 to 3 inches, this will be a little bit higher than what we had last weekend, but I do think this will be higher closer to those areas, especially east of 77. So similar in terms of where we see those higher winds, we'll see those higher rainfall totals too. And this will allow for a low to moderate risk for some localized flooding, but I'm not super concerned about that since we've had about a week to allow for some of that rain that we had last Sunday to start to dissipate. So at this point, I'm not extremely concerned, but it's something as of note that we'll be watching. And because it is a Panthers home game tomorrow, and we know it's going to be rainy and windy and pretty big impact to the game, it could be one of the wettest Panthers games actually on record. I know Brad was looking at that data yesterday. And with the big low pressure drop, you're also going to notice the aches and pains. I had a few viewers that were messaging me this morning on Twitter, email, things like that, and said they already kind of started to notice it. And I think you'll notice it even more so heading toward tonight and then all the way through tomorrow and Monday night too. So kind of a recap here, we have heavy rain for most of the day tomorrow, 1 to 3 inches. The heavier rain and the higher winds will be east of us. Winds up to about 20 miles per hour, gusts up to about 40, scattered power outages, but also just a chilly, raw, kind of gross day because temperatures will only be in the low to mid 50s for the majority of the afternoon. And then we do stay windy again through early Monday. Winds die down, and then that's when we get that quick burst of wind in the afternoon, but mainly in the mountains that brings us that snowfall potential. And as we get that cold air moving in, look at Tuesday and Wednesday. One of the coldest afternoons that we've had of the season so far. Probably the coolest of the season if I'd have to look back at the numbers. But so some of the coolest that we've seen of 2023, highs struggling Tuesday to reach the mid 40s, upper 40s on Wednesday, before we do generally start to track back upwards to the mid to upper 50s by Thursday and Friday. And while we haven't really had a chance yet to talk about long range models heading closer to Christmas and Christmas Eve, our long range data does show a pretty high chance that we'll at least be close to average, if not slightly higher than average, for Christmas and the holiday. So if you are staying local, likely seeing temperatures in the upper 50s to lower 60s based on an average low of 35 and an average high of 55. So to kind of wrap things up here, so you can get going with your day. Today, pretty nice, but we are seeing more clouds building in. Tomorrow, windy for the majority of the afternoon, rainy pretty much all day, heavy rain at times. Gusty winds going to allow for the chance to see scattered power outages. This will primarily be a risk by the evening, by the afternoon and evening hours. So make sure folks are staying weather aware. A great way to do that: download our WCNC Charlotte mobile app. We will keep you updated off and on throughout the day, and then you'll eventually be able to keep up with the forecast and keep up with the team for the rest of the week. And of course, beyond into the Christmas holiday. And if you're heading out of town anytime soon and we won't see you until the new year, just wanted to say I hope you have a happy holidays and I hope you have a safe, happy, and healthy Saturday. And we'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up Charlotte Weekend starting at 6 a.m., where we will certainly be tracking a whole lot of rain. Stay safe, folks.